Have you ever noticed that you gravitate towards people who look like you, sound like you, and share your interests? Have you ever wondered why?
From the moment we are born, we're influenced by our family and friends, by media and politics, by our immediate environment, by our language and the stories we read and hear, and by the various groups we belong to. Over time, these influences come to define our worldview, informing our preferences, behaviours, and attitudes.
This usually happens without us even being aware of it, because it takes place in part of our brains called the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is constantly processing vast amounts of information, up to 40 million pieces of data per second, looking for patterns and seeking out the familiar. Our unconscious minds make incredibly quick judgments.
This is a process that happens to all of us, causing us to unconsciously associate certain attributes with other people or groups of people. Simply put, unconscious bias occurs when we make an implicit association for or against one person or group.
However, it's important to remember that decisions made as a result of implicit biases are not always inherently negative. These automatic responses, based on bias, can also help us, such as our instinctive survival bias, helping us to avoid danger. It is useful to think of our unconscious biases as little shortcuts our brains take in order to immediately evaluate people.
But they can also impact our decision-making in profoundly negative ways without our realising it. In fact, they can cause us to stereotype and make false assumptions about people.
In the workplace, our unconscious biases might influence whom we view as smart and successful, and also might influence our business decisions, particularly about people we work with and people we employ, and the people we choose to support and develop. Consequently, we might discriminate against someone who is not like us and favour someone who is like us.
Or our unconscious mind might assume, for instance, that a tall man who wears a suit is the perfect CEO candidate, or that a left-handed colleague is a more creative thinker. These automatic assumptions are a huge risk to organisational success because they can negatively influence recruitment, retention, and employee development. But the good news is there are things we can do to counteract these biases.
Recognising and learning about unconscious bias provides us with tools and strategies for adjusting our automatic thinking and reducing potentially discriminatory behaviours.
We can gain insight into our own unconscious biases and into the extraordinary power of the unconscious mind. We can also learn about the most common types of workplace bias so that we can identify when they might be occurring and take appropriate action. And in successful organisations, leaders start this transformation and most importantly, they embed it in the culture.
It's important to remember that whilst unconscious biases impact how you relate to other people, they also impact how others relate to you. We take on the mission to share our knowledge of how unconscious bias affects us.
We believe in a future where every person, regardless of their background, has the opportunity and support to flourish in a society that recognises and values them. This is our blueprint for all.